What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Corked Stats, fastest freaking show in NFL, absolutely anywhere. With your boy, Big Johnny Stud. Follow me on Twitter at John Legaza Flow. Sharper than a damn razor. Good to be burning the candle on both ends. Make sure you're checking out the baseball stuff. Like and subscribe, all that nonsense. But when it comes to football, everybody needs somebody sometime. I've really been enjoying these guest series. Hit us up with the feedback. Today, up in the chair, it is Mr. Pete Nova. What's going on? Pete, sorry about this morning. I'm always very honest with my people, and you were nice enough to kind of deal with me on the fly here. You follow Pete on Twitter. Hold on, make sure I got this. At Super, but it's 2 R's, Nova 38. So SUPERRNOVA 38. Peter, how are you on this fine morning?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you having me on. I know we've interacted a little bit here and there on Twitter. You reached out, said wanted to jump on the show, and yeah, man. I'm more of a high pressure, quick. Let's jump on a show. Like that's more my style. I enjoy it. The schedule, the setting up things, they make it all nice. When it feels more unfiltered and just kind of let's just get into it. That's usually where I enjoy the shows the most. So I'm excited for it.
So basically, you're my kind of guy. You're our kind of guy. Over here in Sparta, we're always joking. It's not Madness, baby. Okay, so I always also have a kind of a soft spot for people that have the kind of go-get-it-ness to go do your own thing. You did just launch the Substack. Before we forget, why don't you just promote that, what you're up to, where people can find you? Again, one of the best things I ever did. I get a lot of questions about content creation. Be your own boss to the furthest extent that you can, right? I had to blend at first. You're freelancing while you're creating, but you really want to make yourself unfireable. So hat tip to you and congratulations, and talk about the Substack for a minute.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. You can find me on Substack. Same thing, Supernova 38 with 2 R's. But yeah, it's a lot of good content there. I'm doing film breakdowns as well as I'll do a little bit of betting. Not as much as much as you do. I mean, your Substack, the amount of betting advice and content, it's insane over there. But a lot of it's going to be fantasy focused, data driven focused. And yeah, there's a free version as well as a paid version. You get a little bit of both from a content perspective. But yeah, just trying to bring different viewpoints and different insights in compared to maybe what the normal fantasy analyst might do. And so, yeah, if you're looking for an edge, especially in like DST, IDP, if that's your thing, I also have a niche there where I dig in really deep there. So feel free to check it out. Would love the support.
Yeah, so if I can give you any advice, not that you're not doing it, but now I've learned a little bit of the ropes with Substack. Make sure you're putting a little bit out for free. Also, I like that they allow you to put a pay break wherever you want. Don't be afraid to tease people. Don't be afraid to put out a lot of good stuff and then hide the answers. That's part of the game. And also, I'm not sure if you've used the note feature. Have you used the note feature? So
Not too much.
notes is Substack's answer to Twitter. There's like a live feed. And I've gotten a lot of subscribers to jump on using the notes. So like look into it. It's a tweet. That's all it is. A short form kind of post, a note thing. That's what they call it. And it's been really good. I've gotten people to jump on that might not see you. It's kind of like an intra site time to do. All right.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. Substack is somewhat like the Reddit side of things, where you have the fantasy football Reddit, where it's just people there for fantasy.
Yeah.
Twitter, you got to get in the weeds of all these different things in one. And so with Substack, it's just solely focused on what you're trying to focus on. And if it's fantasy football, that's all you'll get. So yeah, loving it so far.
All right. I know you're prepped up for the season. We're going to be referring to the NFFC where the big ballers play. Just this month's ADP, I had Modique in the chair. He was talking about the last 2 days, and I get it. But I don't want people's heads to start spinning too far. So we'll be looking at just this month. I want to just ask you questions kind of round by round. That's what I was thinking. Like, what's going on between my head and your head? And maybe we can help find some answers. So, all right, right off the bat, obviously Gibbs and Bijan, 1 and 2. That's fine. I want to talk about roster construction because I think that's really the main thing that we're always trying to do. Player takes are fine, but putting the puzzle together properly is really what we're trying to do at the end of the day. I found myself in a major hole chasing running backs, and that's been my big advice this year. Once you start chasing them, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. after those guys, like I've been asking people, you need X amount of running backs through round X. Can you answer that?
Yeah, I think it's a two-parter, right? I think for me, there's two different ways that I go. It's an anchor at running back, so I'll take one in the at the 1-2 turn if I don't get one of those elite guys, and I'm not obviously getting that Bijan or the Gibbs guy. I'll try to go for like a James Cook who I'm really liking, or in that second round on the turn, two guys that I really target heavily have been Kenneth Walker and Chase Brown. So those are my other two guys. But if I get Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, then I'm looking at it and saying, okay, I'm trying to get at least two running backs in the first 5 rounds. If I get James Cook, where I feel really, really comfortable that he is a surefire first round pick and should be, then I'm kind of anchored down and I say, okay, I got my running back. I can kind of allow the board to fall how it falls, and I can be not a little bit more. I can be a little bit more reactive without chasing. Because to your point, I mean, when you start looking at some of these running backs, if you don't nail, I mean, we're seeing Jeremiah Love, we're seeing Brees Hall now pop up with injuries, and those are the guys you start seeing in that third round. And if you don't get one in the 1 and 2, you're kind of screwed. And the receivers are really plentiful in rounds 3 to 5, so it doesn't make sense to not have a running back in those first 2 rounds.
Yeah, that's been a big thing I've been preaching. So now back to that. I love that. Now it's backing up a little bit. Obviously, we got the Bijan and Gibbs. That's easy. I've been struggling in, let's call it the, I don't know, the front half of the middle of first rounds. And the reason I'm so specific, Pete, is because I'm with you. I love all all the goodness of running backs in the second round. I'm all about that entire clump. My problem is, let's say you have the 3, 4, 5. You're probably taking a wide receiver. Well, I am. Then a lot of those second rounders are gone. And then by the time the third round rolls around, sometimes Love and Hall are both gone. I don't want Javonte Williams as my RB1 in the third. I mean, maybe some people do. I don't. I don't want Kyron as my RB1 in the third either. I don't want that at all. I'd rather have Corum where he's going. I might like Corum to finish with more points than Kyron at the end of this thing. So that's where I found, and again, that's debatable and that's fine. But
Sure.
that's where I'm like really struggling. So let's put you now, Pete, in the back half of the first round. I've seen Genty go as high as 7. I've seen Cook up there 7, 8. Do you think we should take running backs over CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, guys that are maybe have a question mark or two, but are definitely legitimate alpha wide receivers? Talk us through the back end of the first, because I think this year is a little unique that we're actually deciding. For many years, I'd be like, all right, if I have this pick, smash, this pick, smash. Where are you at the back end of the first, keeping in mind that running back landscape?
Yeah, the wide receivers, it doesn't feel as secure as it has in years past, where it feels like surefire. I actually have AJ Brown ahead of CeeDee Lamb right now, and like right with Justin Jefferson, pretty close towards that back end of the first, early second. I think, for me, I'm trying to secure one of James Cook, Jonathan Taylor at the back of the first. But look, there's a possibility that those guys are gone, right? And Nash and Genty's gone, CMC's gone. And then you're kind of staring down the barrel and saying, what am I doing here? And I think at that point, like, I have Kenneth Walker. I never thought I'd be as high on Kenneth Walker as I was. And I started to do more research and I started to look into it, and you start to look at the landscape and what's available and the other guys at the position and the guys in the second round. And you start to say, why shouldn't Kenneth Walker really be that 1-2 turn? Andy Reid, when he's had, really, really good running backs, he's utilized them and they've been effective. It's just a matter of that they haven't really had anybody that talented. When's the last guy that they had that was as talented as Walker? It's Kareem Hunt, and Walker's arguably more talented than Hunt, I would say. He has his issues, but still, from a raw talent perspective, I think they're going to utilize him. So I love taking Kenneth Walker, Chase Brown, if I'm at that 1-2 turn at that spot, and then maybe looking at like a Malik Neighbors or even an AJ Brown. I know people are still kind of hesitant on Malik Neighbors. I have him valued as a as an early to mid first round pick. I think it's fine to take him there. Everybody that I've talked to, I was just talking to Adam Hutchison, who's a DPT over at Football Guys. And, he said that Malik Neighbors is somebody he's extremely high on. And I think at the end of the day, the volume's going to be there. The efficiency might not be, but New York's got nobody there and he's still a special talent. I think there's a good chance he'll be ready for week one. So it's like Malik Neighbors, AJ Brown. If I get those guys, early second round, I'm okay taking Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker over guys like CeeDee Lamb. Jefferson, I still have a little bit of question marks on. I know people are high and they're excited that Kyler's there, but I'm not super secure or feel comfortable saying, hey, I feel great about this offense, this ecosystem. And then CeeDee Lamb, great talent, but one thing I worry about with Lamb is the touchdown side of things, right? CeeDee Lamb's only been the top 6 in points per game one time in his career, and it was 3 years ago where he scored 14 touchdowns. He's only gone over like 6, I think, one other time. And so with George Pickens there, the touchdown rate for Lamb did drop last year. He got a little bit unlucky, but if Lamb's not scoring touchdowns and Pickens is going to be there, I think Lamb is going to be a good player. He's worth like a mid-second round pick, but I don't see him as a first rounder this year. And I think we're chasing something with Lamb that hasn't really been there. If you, like I said, he's only been in the top 6 in points per game once in his entire career, which is kind of shocking when you think about Lamb. But George Pickens is fighting for a contract this year, and I think he's going to eat into it. So I'm not in love with taking Lamb. He's probably my biggest fade in the first round for where he's going.
Yeah, I think we're picking nits, and I think you have to do that to make that determination. And I think all of this, every even little tiny red flag on any of these wideouts says to me, take the running back and then let the rest of the draft come to you, because you mentioned already wide receivers. We're going to get to them in a second as we work down the rounds. Just a depth of wide receivers that I think could easily finish as first round guys. Can you say that about like any of the running backs? It becomes really difficult. You mentioned my guy Breece Hall. I'm a Jets fan. I love Hall. He comes up hurt this morning, and all of a sudden now you have to rethink it. We're getting closer to week one. If he's going to be limited, what does that look like? Man, I hate traveling with the group, Pete. That's what I'm getting at. And everybody everywhere is saying, running back, prioritize the runners. Normally that's what I'm like, And this year, which is weird, I've been finding myself just dying along with the sheep, because you're not really over. To me, this is a point I've been making. You're not overpaying. Like, Ferraris are expensive. Expensive things cost a lot of money. So you're not paying like above market. You're just paying an expensive price tag. You got to spend the first and second round on somebody. Now, let's go like, I don't want to say worst case. Like, if you have a Monra and AJ Brown, which are things that happen in this market of people pushing running backs, right? Where are we comfortable getting them? Now in the third, let's say Love and Breece. So just to extend the running back conversation, give me guys you're comfortable starting your running back room with, right? And even if it is the guys I mentioned, Kyron, that's fine. I shouldn't have kind of led you with that where I was going to answer. Right. But yeah, where does the RB1 market end, I think is what I'm asking.
I think the RB market ends around Josh Jacobs for me. I know people have some hesitancy because of the potential suspension. I don't think Jacobs is going to get suspended. The beautiful thing about Jacobs is his ADP is kind of ranges depending on where you're drafting. I know, he's kind of slipped a little bit as of late when you're looking at his ADP. And if you look at NFFC, I'm pulling it up really quick. He's at 48 right now, right? So that's in like the last month, right? But then I've seen Jacobs go as high in some of these NFFC drafts that I've been in where he's gone, mid early third round, right? So he's obviously pulled up with a little bit of an injury. I'll feel more comfortable, as we get more data. In most of my serious drafts and my high stakes drafts, I try to push towards as close to the September 1st as I can, or that early September. But Jacobs is somebody, if you told me you got Josh Jacobs in the mid to late third round, but you got 2 stud receivers, I wouldn't be that upset. And then maybe, you're shooting for an upside guy like a Trevion Henderson, or even maybe like a Quinshon Judkins, David Montgomery, Quinshon Judkins, like those guys feel properly priced. Kyron at 32 or somewhere in the early 30s right now, he just doesn't feel Sorry, he's actually dropped to 42. So he's kind of gotten a little bit better on his price. Javante's at 40. Those guys have pushed down. Breece Hall's at 38 now, so his price has dropped. I expect that to drop a little bit more too. But yeah, I think I still wouldn't feel great about like even Love or Breece, like with Love with this injury, but then Breece, with now his injury too. I just wouldn't feel great about them. So I would say Josh Jacobs. I think Jacobs, there's probably, it's like Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Those are the two last guys before the kind of the fall off for me, where I would feel comfortable having those guys as my number one.
Yeah, and now that also kind of begs the question, you almost need to hit it again, right? If you waited, and now Jacobs, man, I have my issues with Jacobs. I'm looking at my kind of data suite right now.
Sure.
Just 4 yards per attempt, below 1 before contact, which again might be a line stat, but just a shade over 3 yards after contact per attempt, which is not good. 6% explosive rush rate, not great. A couple of the stats I like to look at is one, how often they face 8-man boxes. Believe it or not, Jacobs was only at 35%, which is very low. So you'd expect him to maybe be a little better in the yards per attempt stuff. And then also I like to look at, I don't know how to name this stupid thing. It's not really negative attempts because I count 0. So it's like 0 or less, 0 or fewer yards, like bad rushes. I don't know what the hell they're called.
Stuffed runs, stuff like that. Yeah.
Maybe stuffed is good. I'm not sure. I think stuffed has a technical definition, but that you might be right. But that is at 18%. So nearly 1 out of 5 attempts from Jacobs was good for nothing, pretty much. And now finally Lloyd is healthy. And even if he's not like some big breakout back, he's my most rostered player across like 200 something drafts. He was one of the last cheese standing alone at the end of these drafts. I'm like, if he's healthy and there's, a non-explosive aging Jacobs in front of him, and let's say there's a suspension risk, even though I think it's dwindling, I'm with you. Lloyd just felt underpriced. I'm not some crazy Lloyd bull. I'm always price determining these things. But again, back to the board, if Jacobs is your one, I kind of feel a little bit behind the 8 ball, but then you have to hit again. I'm glad you mentioned that. But think about these 1v1s where, like, yeah, you feel really great about Amon-Ra and having AJ, but then, like, Josh Jacobs and Trevion, I think there's a lot of questions for Trevion, whereas if you went Chase Brown, me and you were very locked in that, by the way. Cook, Brown, Ken Walker, anywhere in the back end of the first, you're getting 2 of those guys. You're pretty much slamming the book on running backs. And then we get into the wide receivers you were talking about. Talk to me about the 3rd and 4th round wide receivers, which, not to bury my lead, I much prefer those 2v2s, however we're comparing them, with the 2 stud running backs I'm not worrying about at all. I think it finishes 101s with wide receivers that I kind of feel the same way about. I have them back on the board. So talk this about in NFFC's yellow, people. All the yellow there. Right? Do you have guys that you really love, guys you're fading, and again, to the 2v2?
Yeah, and I think this is the point, and you talked about it. Like when you can really tee up and get those running backs early and not have to worry about chasing, it just opens up the entire board for you. There's so many possibilities where these wide receivers could become, back end wide receiver ones that you're taking rounds 3, 4, 5, 6. For the guys that I'm targeting in those rounds, typically, it's really like DJ Moore. Now he obviously gets rolled up on and there's an injury, so there's a little bit of risk and some concern there. I love Zay Flowers. I feel like everybody loves Zay Flowers. You can get him in that early 3rd round. Some drafts, it's going to just depend on what league you're in, because some people really like him, some people don't. So he's going to sway between early 3rd to mid to late 3rd. But it's really like Zay Flowers. And then like DJ Moore. DJ Moore is somebody who he's now pushed up. If you look at that, he's pushed up into the 4th round. But now with this ankle injury, high ankle sprain potentially, I think that he could maybe slip back into the 5th round. And I'm extremely high on DJ this year. I know people have concerns, with the age and everything. But I feel like with the Browns, it feels very eerie to, they drafted Rome Odunze, then they drafted new shiny toys the next year with Luther Burden and Colson Loveland, and everybody just wanted the new shiny toy, and they were kind of done and over with DJ, and people were just get super excited. A lot of fantasy analysts think they're like the NFL scouts, and I pride myself on film film analysis too, but they see these guys in college, they love the landing spot, and they just think, oh, DJ's not nearly as talented as these guys. And I think DJ's better than people have given him credit for. So DJ's really, really a guy that I've heavily targeted. Parker Washington, same thing. I would be happy with Parker being my wide receiver too. I know he's pushed into the 4th round. We're starting to get kind of that, is the cost worth, the risk there? I think Parker, it is. He's been able to be healthy. I think if you paid attention to the Jaguars last year, he was clearly very important to what they did on offense. And I think Devontae Adams, that would be my other guy, right? I think people are concerned that he can't keep up with the touchdown. And I know touchdowns are not always sticky year over year, John, but the truth is when you look at utilization, like you saw with Devontae Adams, that wasn't luck with Devontae Adams. That was pure, hey, this is what we want to do. We want to get this guy the ball in the red zone and let him score touchdowns and give him chances. I think Devontae Adams had like the highest target rate in the red zone of any or of any wide receiver ever. I think I read, or it might have been
it's the highest amount of red zone targets in recorded history. That's what it is. Which is the highest amount of red zone, and it's by an order of fucking magnitude beyond anyone else. So my guy Ian at Berry Fantasy Life was talking about. He's at Roto World. Excuse me. Anyways, yeah, it was that like, and so we want to regress touchdown stuff, but how much do you want to regress it? Like, it's the plan. Like, it's not like meaning, and this is what Ian was saying too, and he's not wrong. I don't even know if that's what you're referring to, the numbers of the numbers. It'd be one thing if you said you scored, he caught 13 of 16, that's going to come back. But if you only score whatever it is, I have it here. I like to, if we can fit the actual numbers here. I got this right here. Devontae Adams in my data suite right here. Push over to the end. Red zone. Okay. He caught 12 of 31. That was in the red zone. Ed zone was 14 of 28. So, like, you're obviously part of the plan. So, I'm not the big Adams guy, but I get where you're going with him. I want to back up to DJ Moore a little bit, right? I want to back up to Moore. I love that you and I are kind of on different guys. And one, I guess it makes decent radio. But more about Moore is he's a guy I'm actually starting to come around on. I can be stubborn because I do a lot of research and I talk about the shit a lot. And I don't get pushed off my spot easily.
Sure.
Now, Moore ran 33 routes a game. I didn't realize he earned 85 targets. Right. He actually scored a couple points per target. So because of the touchdowns, where he's good at the paint, he was pretty good, 13.5 yards per reception. Now, like, what do we worry about? He had a 15.3 target per route run, 1.25 yards per route. Those are things I look at that I worry about. He also had a really bad off-target rate. That goes to Caleb. So when you think about what you mentioned, which is how they brought in all these other pieces, and he wasn't part of that old guard, then you could see why he maybe wouldn't get all those looks. That's no longer a concern in Buffalo. They brought him into Alpha. Is he going to Alpha? I'm not sure. But I heard somebody make a really great point that I didn't hear from you, and I wonder if you agree, if this is something you've already thought about. And it was the stylistics, like more style of play, not really working with Johnson's offense, because Johnson's offense is very much predicated on microsecond on the spot, right? Everything is timing. Moore's always been a bit of a freestyler, and he's going into like the ultimate freestyler offense. And when I heard this framing of it, I went, damn, I got to start drafting DJ Moore. Quick call. And we saw a little bit of it immediately preseason. Apparently that roll up, he's fine. But Allen breaks down defenses. He's a moose. He's impossible to take down. He throws with one knee, barely touching the ground on 1 foot, 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. He's an absolute monster. And Moore is good at that. Running free, moving towards the ball, running towards the quarterback. Again, not necessarily like being on the spot at the moment. Have you thought about that? About maybe more? Man, dude, Josh Allen almost turned Brandon Cooks into a thing last year. That was my other point. Maybe we need to be higher on DJ Moore. So had you thought about the that like element that maybe people are just like myself, too nosed in the spreadsheets and not thinking about the actual field stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I have thought of it. Right, with with DJ, I think you put it perfectly, right? Like freestyle is a great way to describe how DJ plays. And it's a good way to describe how Josh Allen plays. It's also worth noting that Joe Brady, was DJ's, coach back when he was in Carolina. So there is a familiarity there as well. They know each other well. They did give up draft capital to go get him. Now people will always say, yeah, I know, but it's the Buffalo Bills. I mean, it didn't work out with Amari Cooper, right? It didn't work out with them drafting Keon Coleman. How can we sit here and take their track record and assume it's going to hit this time? But the truth is, like, DJ has been a consistent, healthy player. He's been consistently on the field. He also has great hands, right? He caught 94.3% of his catchable targets in 2025 alone. Only 62.4% of those were catchable from Caleb Williams because it's Caleb Williams, right? I mean, Caleb Williams has 65.5% catchable target rate while he's going to Josh Allen, who's got a 75.9% catchable target rate. So that boost alone, I have DJ projected somewhere around 120 targets this year. There's nobody in this offense that I'm sitting here saying, man, this guy's going to be so frustrating to deal with. Shakir has a relationship with Josh. Totally get that. I know people are on Kincaid bouncing back this year, but the truth is DJ doesn't have to just play the slot. He can also play that mover in that dagger role in the Z where he's kind of moving around. And I think, look, even if the A dot's not great, DJ's also been a really solid player after the catch. And they showed us, right? Sometimes you have to just look at what is a team telling you, forgetting about what everything else says. They open up the first preseason game. DJ catches 3 passes for 60 yards. It's preseason. Totally get that. But that's just one of those things where it's just they're giving you a taste. And that's usually vanilla offenses. And the fact that they peppered him early on to start, to me, just gives us a little bit of a taste of what we can expect. I think he's a guy that should be getting 6 to 8 targets a game pretty comfortably in this offense that doesn't really have any massive target earners. So, and the broken plays are going to be something he should be able to feast on because, like you said, Josh Allen is the king of that, and he's just going to continue to extend plays. So I'm very high on DJ, and I'm glad that you did note that injury is not going to be anything serious. I was hoping people would be a little worried about it, that maybe we can get a little bit of a discount.
Well, they came out and said high ankle sprain immediately.
Yeah.
You got to be careful, right? The instant Twitter reactions.
Yeah.
And, that's what gets you nervous because the high ankle will kill you, could derail you for a month. And again, he would go back to a full-time player role the second he's ready. But who wants to deal with that aggravation? Man, my conclusion here is it's more of the same. It's, okay, so we picked nits on the wide receivers in the early rounds. What did we find? Kind of warts we didn't love. When you look at the running backs, they're pristine, like you mentioned. All those guys are a hit. They're all hits. Even I like Devon Achane. I think people have jumped the shark on him as if these guys are not going to say, Malik Willis, baller. Devon Achane, baller. Let's run the offense through the 2 ballers. Yeah, I know the wide receiver room is a little hurt right there. I think Dulcich has a little bit of wiggle. I think people try and predict too much at the draft table. I think you did a really good job of framing guys, again, I'm not crazy about how they could and would succeed. And through 4 rounds, I'm just feeling very, very good about earlier running backs. And I'm not saying late, right, but later wide receivers. Now, I want to take a half step. I don't know if it's back, but let's call it lateral. If we're through 4 rounds and we're talking running backs and wide receivers, where are you on the elite tight ends right now? Loveland, let's leave Loveland out of this. He's right on that border because for him, it's pretty much the 4th round marker. Inside the 4th, I'm not taking it. Right at the 4th turn or into the 5th, late 4, even very late 4, like 4:10. Man, Loveland's a smash pick. For me at least, and I'll kind of figure out even more wide receivers later. I'm not making the Loveland pick if I needed the running back. See how that running backs are always putting an extra stress on your roster build. Talk to us about elite tight ends, right? So we're talking Bowers, we're talking McBride, not tight end premium stuff. That's a different animal. For standard kind of regular people leagues, how do you think they should be looking at the elite tight ends? I have waffled on this, Pete. You have no idea how many times.
Yeah, Bowers is really the only guy I'm looking to take high. I've always been a massive Trey McBride fan. I think his price is getting a little bit cheaper, but now with the potential of Love injury, I don't think that's going to get much cheaper at 31 right now. I do worry a lot of mouths to feed for McBride and just a lot of mouths to feed in the offense in general that should want to establish the runs and it's not going to throw the ball 40, 50 times a game. So love Trey McBride, just hate the price. If the offense was a little bit better, or the quarterback situation was a little bit better, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable. Bowers, I think we got to taste. I think Cousins. I think the hysteria around Cousins being bad has been a little bit too much. We saw how long it took Rodgers to come off of that Achilles. Cousins was coming off of it. I think Cousins is better than people are giving him credit for at this point in his career. And I think we saw a little bit or enough of Mendoza so far to say, hey, we feel comfortable if one of these, if Kirk goes down or if Kirk is benched, Mendoza steps in. So Bowers is really should be treated as a wide receiver. So I'm comfortable taking Bowers. It's not my draft strategy though. I will preface that by saying that I just don't like drafting tight ends high because I got to chase other positions. And in a year where running back is so hard to nail right now because of the scarcity of the position, I hate starting behind by taking a luxury pick at tight end that I feel like I'm catching up. Now, sometimes I'll do it with quarterback, very rarely, but if Josh Allen slips past ADP or some of these other quarterbacks that are elite slip past, I'll take chances on them, like Lamar's and those guys. They are cheaper too than these elite tight ends. I don't find myself taking Loveland just yet still. So it's really only Bowers of the big three. I think there's some really good tight ends later on that like their price point is really palatable. Sam Laporta comes to mind too. I don't want to get too far ahead of us here, but I mean an ADP of 91 for Sam Laporta seems absolutely bonkers to me. So that's just a little bit of a tease on who I'm on the most right now, which is Sam Laporta, who right now in fantasy guys online championship on NFFC, he's sitting at average cost of 91, which I think is just absolutely nuts.
You know what? I do actually want to go to tight ends because I don't think we're going to make it far enough where we're like analyzing all these guys as a tier. I like that you actually offered a solution in Laporta, and I'm like, dude, I'm like sighing because here I have this like super sharp guy in the other chair, and you're on all the players. Okay, so it's not just that you're on the players I'm not. You're on the players I'm not that are on the short list of players I'm fading that I'm worried are going to burn the arse,
Yeah.
and that's the killer for me. And that was one of the things where Moore popped up because I forgot who was talking about this exercise, but it's a really good way to go about it. Which players do you like have none of? And are you really confident? And when Moore came up on that list, opposed to Adams, which it's easier for me to hand wave Devontae for the age. I worry about Stafford. I just worry in general.
Sure.
Where Moore is more like, yikes, this offense is set to flow through him, right? If we found out that Kyron got all the goal line looks because Devontae was getting bracketed at the end zone and no one's ever overcome that, we might say, oh, that was logical looking back.
Yeah.
But Moore getting 120 deep targets from Josh Allen and running free, maybe going for 1,300 yards and double-digit scores is absolutely something that could happen. I'm joking about the Brandon Cooks thing. I was cashing Brandon Cooks props at the end of last year. And that was the thing that made me go, dude, you have to pump the brakes. You have to draft DJ Moore. If you were willing to bet on Brandon Cooks in the literal same spot that Moore is into, who's a significantly better player than Cooks, then you got to go to that. Now, backstep to Laporta. Let's see what we got just under the hood really quick.
Yeah, I'd love to hear.
He scored almost a half a fantasy point per route, more than 2 fantasy points per target. I mean, when he was on the field, he plays every down. Now, he missed a little bit of time. They say he's healthy. But again, I have all on the field stuff, more than 20% target per route. He was right at 2 yards per route run. So, those are basically the bones of the efficiency stuff that we're looking for. We know he's part of a really good offense. People are now worried about Detroit's defense, which is really interesting, right? We don't talk about defenses that much. Yep. But when a defense is bad for a really good team in a great scoring environment, maybe we should be, maybe I need to be more on Laporta. I've been telling myself a story. Jameson Williams is kind of the killer there. I don't know if we've seen them all succeed. You want to talk about Laporta at full strength? I'm not saying you can't do it, but why don't you finish up on your Laporta stuff?
Yeah. I did a piece on my Substack about Laporta specifically too. when we look at Laporta, I mean, this is a guy that's averaging 6 targets a game in his career. So we know he's absolutely just been that guy. I think the biggest concern with him is, like you said, you put it perfectly. Jameson Williams, is he going to be that guy that's going to be more Mr. Consistent? Did he take a step forward? And if he did, what does that mean for Laporta, right? And then you also factor in the health for Laporta. I'll touch on the health first for a second, right? Adam Schefter came out about a month before Laporta was officially cleared fully and stated that the team is looking to get him and Jahmyr Gibbs extended. So I think Laporta extension's coming. And the fact that they said that before he was fully medically cleared and they said, hey, he's good to go, and he's going to be full go for camp. The fact that they said that and felt comfortable enough to come out with that early on makes me think they looked at the medical records, they looked at his back and his injury and everything else and the rehab, and they said, yeah, this guy, this is something we feel comfortable with moving forward. And that's why he didn't even really get eased in. He's just full go straight into camp. So I'm not worried about the injury for him. Also, keeping in mind, he produced really well with the injury, which is kind of crazy when you look at his overall numbers last year. When I look at Jameson Williams, the part of the reason I don't buy it completely is, when Laporta has been on the field with JMO, he's averaged 5.97 targets per game versus 4.86 for Williams. Williams' volume did jump when Laporta, was down, but with everyone healthy, Laporta has consistently been ahead of him from a targets perspective. I like JMO. He's a little bit of a head case to it sometimes. Got a little George Pickens in him there, but I just think overall the offense will flow through Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs. Through St. Brown in the pass game, and I think JMO is really fighting with Laporta. There will be some games where JMO gets more, and there's going to be some games where Laporta gets more. But the tipping point for me is just who's going to get the ball more in the red zone, right? JMO is going to get many of the big touchdowns, but when it gets to the red zone, it's going to be Laporta and St. Brown that are going to be those guys. And we've seen Goff throw for over 30 touchdowns consistently the last couple of years with the Lions. So I feel really good about Laporta. And again, you're also paying a price at 91, where if you don't love it, but you're like, hey, he's there, I'll take the risk. You can double up and go grab Travis Kelce at pick 125, who I might not be in love with Kelce, but at pick 125 on an offense for the Chiefs that have relatively really nobody at wide receiver outside of Rashee Rice and Cyrus Allen hype right now. You can double up and go get Kelce, right? If you don't want to spend a premium, which I never take a second tight end when I do spend a high pick on one. But in this case, both guys are cheap. You can back yourself up and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I'm still trying to finalize my tight end plan. Every time I seem to sink my teeth into something, the ground's not as solid as I wish it was. It's got to be pretty strong to hold my ass up there. Like I said, I was really into Loveland. Loveland was going later. Now he's pushing forward, and I'm pumping the brakes a little bit. I was really into Fannin at cost. I think what he did last year was unbelievable. There's obviously systemic risk with the quarterback play. He succeeded despite it, but there was no other real competition there.
Yeah.
And not only am I worried about the Boston hype and the Concepcion hype, you mentioned sometimes, right, keeping an eye on the exhibition stuff just to see the gadget usage of Concepcion worried me for Fannin a little bit, right? Because if the play is volume, how much volume and scoring is going to be on that team when I have zero faith in the quarterbacking? So I've come off of Fannin a little bit. I was really into Kincaid. I think Kincaid, is super efficient. You hope he's healthy. But now I'm kind of dropped all the way back. That's the Kelce stuff. I was on Andrews for a little bit. Now I'm worried he may be dusty. So I'm really trying to refine that plan. Let's say you don't get Laporta, because I think some smart people are on him. Are you pivoting in that same tier to a Kyle Pitts, or are you dropping further back the Kincaid tier? Remember Kincaid? We talk about things that you can't we saw him as a part-time player. What if that continues? Yeah, I want him to be healthy and be full-time. I don't think he'll be 90%, but we don't want him at 50 or whatever. Right? We need him at a higher route participation rate to be a tight end one generally. Where are you going if you lose out on Laporta? What's your backup plan look like? Because my plan A is turned into plan B, my plan B into A, and vice versa. I'm really kind of struggling right now. Where are you going with your backdoor tight end plan?
Yeah, and I do want to mention for a second, you brought up Pitts. He goes a little bit higher, right? He's ADP 82 right now, but I think even just people seeing a snapshot of Tua just peppering him, he might start to go up a little bit higher too. And I'm probably going to be out at him at cost for sure. But I like to target, my deep sleeper this year is like a Jawan Johnson, right? I don't mind pairing up if I
That's a
am going
good
to take a
one.
chance on like Travis Kelce, I like Johnson,
Good
right?
one.
Johnson's explosiveness, he's actually been one of the most explosive tight ends over the last
Yeah.
5 years, which doesn't feel like it. But now with the Jordan Tyson injury, John, like he is becoming a value, and he was already a value. He's picked 172 off the board. You can practically get him with your last pick, right? I know people are in on Greg Dulcich, and he's definitely an option as well. But I think Jawan Johnson, and you kind of just become, hey, are we streaming tight ends this year? And if we are, it's Jawan Johnsons of the world. It's the Brenton Stranges. You take that chance on Terrence Ferguson. I haven't gotten up to there where he is, where people are taking him at 159. I'm still kind of marinating on him because I know people are very excited with him too. I'm not there just yet. But for tight ends, I look at it as, are you the number 2 target on an offense for passing, or are you a guy that is in a phenomenal offense, but you're maybe that third option, right? It needs to be typically one of the two. With Johnson, if Tyson's missing time, who knows what's going on there? Johnson had over 90 targets last year, right? He's been consistently peppered in the offense. He's got a relationship with Chuck. They were college teammates and roommates in college. So I think Johnson's a phenomenal pick right now who could easily be number 2 in an offense that has Saints arguably have the best schedule in football right now, especially for fantasy. It's awesome. So obviously the Lions probably have the best, but they're right up there. So I'm looking at Jawan Johnson. That's one for me.
Yeah, I think the Kellen Moore play volume incoming is a strong suit for Johnson. I think the injury to Tyson is a strong suit. They're not going to go get anybody. He's going to be that guy. He had 102 targets last year, went for 889. The thing that killed him, I think, was just having 3 touchdowns. But we know that can change. 19 and a half target per route, just under 1 3/4 yards per route run. Just under 13 routes per first down, which is really good. There's a lot of good stuff here. What else did I see? Oh, okay. I've been splitting man and zone success on my data suite. I think it's really helpful. And Johnson succeeded against both. He had a double-digit success rate against both. He had at least a fifth of a point, right, of EPA per target against both man and zone, and at least 1 1/4 yards per run against man, which is the harder one. He was up near 2 yards per run against the zone. So I'm really glad you mentioned Johnson because he's been one of the 2 names that have entered the chat, right? I guess I didn't mention it before. I'm the guy, Pete. I don't draft anybody. Who don't you draft? It's easy for me to tell you who I do draft, even after 200 drafts. I'm very, very strict about nope. That's what I say. For me to get pushed off a spot is hard because I need something in its place, really. And tight ends now, I'm finding myself all the way back. I've been falling in love with Colby Parkinson lately. Again, the Rams are really high powered, right? And I think after I was running his numbers for Rotoball, or after the bye when he was like solidified, dude, he was killing it. He was going crazy. Easy tight end 1 numbers there. So all right, tight end a little bit spotty, but I think to our point about like where you take these guys, that tight end's the kind of thing you work backwards, right? Find your solution later, and then you're fine passing on the Bowers, or you're fine passing on the Bride. Yeah, we want all these guys, but you can't have them all because of the running back press. So that was really cool. I think that was useful. Let's jump back into the board now. So let's say that we are just on the skill positions early. And I think having the 2 running backs gives you that kind of ease. In fantasy baseball, we have the robot, and the robot always says, could do. Keep all drafting options open, could do, which simple, but it works, right? And that's the whole point is if you don't overreach, then the forks in the road will remain plentiful. So if you went 2 and 2 running back wide receiver, now you kind of have your choice. We're looking at the 5th round here. This is a bit of a mixed bag. You don't have to go specifically to the 5th because I know things move, could be the 6th. But here's where I think leagues are really won because if a player is back here, there's some uncertainty, but these are a lot of the guys that could break out and end up in the 1st or 2nd round next year. You mentioned Travion, obviously all the ceiling play, people are into Jonathan Brooks. QJ or like Godwin. There's a mixture of names. Who stands out for you in this front, like as we're entering the middle rounds, right? Do you have a structure or a player or a few players that you like here?
Yeah, there becomes a couple of targets for me in those middle rounds. It was Parker Washington for a while, but he's just soared up the board, and it's just really hard to. I'm not saying I'm off on his price because we did talk about I did say I still like him, but around 4 or 5 cost, it becomes a little expensive, and I love the guy, but I don't know. He just feels like a guy you're going to get sniped on where somebody's just going to reach ahead of you and you're just going to miss him because you just don't know where to gauge where he's going to go. As for some of the other players in the middle rounds here that I'm kind of targeting, Rico Dowdle comes to mind for me. Very high on Rico. I think people took some early camp reports thinking it was Jalen Warren that was going to be the guy, but I think all the signs are there for me for Rico Dowdle. I mean, he signs with Mike McCarthy, was a priority sign for McCarthy. He was the first guy that McCarthy brought in as he was the head coach of this team. Rico was pretty much made his name known when he was with Dallas with McCarthy. And I look at it and say Rico has that ability to be 3-down skill set. He's a bigger body guy. I like Jalen Warren, but I haven't touched him much at his price. I think Rico is one of the most mispriced guys right now on the board. Sometimes he goes higher, sometimes he goes lower. So it really depends on what kind of room you're in. So I've been drafting him a decent amount. And then I guess another wide receiver / player that I've started to get a little bit more exposure on is Cortland Sutton lately, just because you have Jalen Waddle, who's already dealt with the injury a little bit. You got a little bit of a taste of Sutton in this preseason game. I think Sutton's going to just continue to be that red zone guy. They still don't really have like a big body guy in the red zone. And Sutton's just consistently been there. He's like a cheaper, less skilled Devontae Adams, in my opinion, where they throw the ball up in the red zone and they just let him go make plays. So I think Sutton's been kind of sneaky from the wide receiver position. He's people are really, really off of him because of Jalen Waddle, and Sutton was a top 15 guy last year. So I think he'll continue, and he's been able to stay healthy, where I'm very much in on Waddle too, but Waddle's had his issues. So Rico and Sutton are two guys that I find myself, and then obviously quarterback too, John. I mean, like you just showed the board. I mean, quarterback is just absolutely nuts this year with how much people have pushed it down the board. I mean, you're looking at Jalen Hurts going at 109 right now, and I'm not even a massive Hurts guy, but I mean, are we kidding?
Crazy.
Are we kidding? Like if you sat here and said Jacoby Myers or Jalen Hurts, I mean, who's taking Jacoby Myers? He's pretty much a depth guy or like a flex player versus getting a quarterback that could easily finish and give you, 6 points per game more than a guy like Jacoby Myers and 3 to 4 points per game more than the average at the position for quarterback.
Yeah, that the quarterback stuff we'll get into that in a second is crazy. I think what's happened is there's a newfound depth at the position, and everybody should be playing Superflex, I think, at this point. Right? We should all be playing with two quarterback leagues, because the point of drafts, it's supposed to be difficult. You're supposed to be making difficult decisions. And what you just alluded to with them getting pushed down is everybody kind of all at once saying, no thanks. Man, I didn't realize our time was flying. We only have a couple minutes left. Let's see, where do we want to wrap here? I guess let's move into the quarterback stuff. Man, I'm gonna have to ask you to come back. Dude, you have a permanent home here because you're different, man, and I like that. Man, you made me feel like a damn sheep today, actually, because I'm not on Dowdle. I've been turning my nose up at it. I worried that, like, I don't know, maybe it's just a split. I worry about play volume in Pittsburgh, but I'm not against Dowdle. The Sutton thing, I got to be honest, I hadn't really thought about Sutton, and Waddle brought in. I'm not sure they necessarily overlap. There's a lot of love for Pat Bryant, and I guess I've just been getting pushed off. Sutton, big fantasy, has been telling me that he's like boring and old, and man, I think I just kind of took the bait on that one. So, all right, let's get into QBs.
Sure.
Okay, so in general, they're getting pushed back. In our exercise here, we're not going with Josh Allen because it's just too close. So talk to us about the rest of it. Lamar Jackson is pretty much the consensus too, but sometimes I feel like he's drifted closer to the pack now. So are you looking for Lamar when he falls, or are you looking – I feel like there's only two ways to skin this cat, right? You either like Lamar if he falls. Oh, 3, you have a favorite, or you're taking the last. So which is it? Do you like Lamar at the latest possible price? Do you have one of the guys in the pack that you like the most? Mine's Drake May. or are you just taking the last? When I take like Justin Herbert, when nobody cares about Justin Herbert, even though they're set up to totally explode this year with McDaniel and Alton Slater back and all that stuff. So talk to us about quarterbacks before we get out of here.
Yeah, quarterback is one where the market has corrected itself too much, right? I understand. I actually talked about it late last season during the season where I said the market's just going to go nuts on quarterback next year, and we're seeing it, right? With Lamar, I mean, you're getting him there. I got him at pick like 70 in an NFFC the other day. And I was like, this is just insane. I had him unstacked. I didn't even have a guy to go. I didn't have Zay Flowers, but I'm
Yeah,
just like,
you don't need it.
yeah, like how can you pass up on that kind of value? And so that's why typically I don't find myself, I don't typically draft Josh. I did draft Josh in a draft a couple of days ago just because, I wanted some exposure. I haven't gotten it and he fell to me and I just took him. But I think typically it's like, if Lamar goes, I don't really love taking Daniels. I mean, I have him ranked number 3, but like I still don't love taking him at his price point, just given the health and I still feel like they didn't really put enough around him. I mean, Diggs was a nice addition, but we'll see how it goes. I'm interested. Trevor Lawrence for me has been my biggest target though. He's got a tough schedule to start the year, but then it really, really opens up towards the back end of the year. And I think you saw Trevor Lawrence have the best season for fantasy and the best season of his career in just 1 year with Liam Cohen. It's practically the same offense. I do think the rushing takes a little bit of a step back with ETN gone. I think efficiency-wise, I don't think those backs are nearly as good. So I think it translates to more throwing. And I think Lawrence maybe regresses on the rushing touchdowns a little bit because he had 9 last year, but I think the passing should be better. And I think ultimately the offense is just going to take another step forward, and he's going to be a phenomenal player back half. I think people are going to get spooked by him because he's got a really tough schedule, like I said, beginning of the year. But second half of the year, I think Lawrence is going to be a phenomenal, phenomenal player, and you're getting him just inside the top 100. He's at 98 right now.
I mean, I scrolled down to show a bit of the QB board. You have to go into the double-digit rounds to even find the rest of the QB1s, which is just really outrageous. Let me ask you, this is my favorite question when you miss on your guy, right? So Lamar went too early. You don't care. You were targeting Lawrence. Let's say he went a little bit early because sometimes there is no set order this year. I've been finding quarterbacks kind of going in the order of the receivers. If the Brian Thomas guy is in front of you, maybe Lawrence went in front of you, right? If the Parker Washington guy was in front of you, maybe he went in front of you, and with every other combination. The Ladd McConkey guy's behind you, so Herbert's still on the board. The Luther Burden guy is maybe worried, so he didn't draft Caleb. He's still sitting there. For a while, when Burden was healthy and Loveland was rising, Caleb was going off as the first QB in that bunch. Now it's not really the case anymore. It's really crazy. Jaden Daniels could be like the overall QB1. No one's really that interested in him. So if you miss on Trevor Lawrence, let's say you miss on this clump, actually. Do you have any guys in that next tier does like a Love or Shuck, Dart, or Willis? I'm just naming my guys, but I think neither of us is on Kyler. Do any of those back-end quarterbacks? Who does a few before we go?
Yeah, I think Shuck for me. We talked about the schedule. I do worry that he's being priced to a point where it's, the risk is not there. So I'm willing to take a chance on him, right? I mean, yes, I know a lot of people are on the Saints offense, but it hasn't really reflected in ADP for the quarterback position. So we've gotten still that discount on Shuck. And I mean, depends on whose rankings you look at or what have you. But I mean, 10th easiest strength of schedule right now per Justin Boone at Yahoo. And he's one of the best in the game when it comes to just doing the strength of schedule stuff. So I trust his analysis a lot. So he's a guy that I love to look at. And the crazy thing is when you look at quarterbacks and you look at strength of schedule, one note I want to mention too, we talked about Jalen Hurts. He's got the easiest strength of schedule for quarterbacks per Justin Boone. Now could be some shakiness there because the new offense, but it's been Tyler Shuck and it's really been Bo Nix. Bo Nix at 140 right now. I know people are scared off on the ankle injury. Is he going to be full go? He's been full go at practice. I know he didn't play in this preseason game. It's because Denver's on their 4th string center right now, and I don't think they want to put their starting quarterback behind that, so they didn't play him this week. But I think he makes a lot of sense if you believe in Jalen Waddle and what Sean Payton's doing there. one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive lines. The defense is a little sketchy because you worry, if that defense is really good, do they want to throw the football a ton? But Sean Payton showed you that he's arrogant when it comes to this kind of stuff. Dan Campbell-esque in a way where even if they're up, he's going to take shots. Bo Nix threw the ball almost the most of all the quarterbacks last year, and they still had top 3 defense in football. So, that didn't stop them. Now with Houston, it worries me more with them because I do think they want to be more conservative. So, I think Bo Nix and Tyler Shuck are the 2 guys. A little bit of Baker here and there too as well.
Man, I want to do a draft with you. That would make an even better radio because, again, we're just on different guys, but I see all of your points, and I feel like you're just on like the other side of all my coin flips, man. That was really cool for me. Yeah, for me, I'm still taking LJ when he falls. Like if he condenses to the pack, I'll take LJ. He was way ahead of Allen last year on a points per game basis before he got hurt. And now we're looking for maybe an upgrade with the coordinator room. Like, let's just not sleep on LJ. That's not how you do this. My favorite is May in the group. If I was just taking one, I think, we're getting the upward trajectory and he runs. Plus he now has like legitimate pass catching weapons. And if not, I'm copping out and taking Malik Willis, man. We've overpaid for Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields in the past. Willis has, I have to keep, dude, I'm a data guy. I don't like to cite. You think I want to cite 2 game samples? No, I don't want to cite 2 game samples, but it's all we got. And my point is Fields never did that. And Richardson never did that. I mean, Willis put up like elite passing games. Also, the numbers for EPA for dropback and yards per attempt, they were like best in the league for a 2-week span. Not to mention this guy could run for 100 yards with 2 scores. So for me, the market, again, I'm with you that the pendulum swings and it tends to overswing at first. And I think that's what's going on. Like, it's very easy to see Malik Willis being right in the club, right? I'm not making a first-round pick, Pete. But he can't go next to Trevor Lawrence next year? Of course he can. If he runs for 1,000 yards, of course he can. So, dude, that was awesome. That went really fast. I think you showed off your best traits, which is thinking on your feet. That was really great. I really feel bad. I just totally sandblasted you, like out of nowhere. No outline, no nothing. And you were really great, dude. You're welcome back literally any time. I would love to have you and kind of finish this conversation. Dude, jam-packed, you're informative, you're right to the point, it's all good stuff, and you're obviously not like following big fantasy like I am. You're not a sheep like I am. Pete, close us out, tell people where they can find you. I really do appreciate it, and everyone sign up to the Substack. Check it out, man.
Yeah, John, appreciate you having me on. Always going to support another fellow Italian. I know I joke around when I say that. I talk to my wife because we're up in Pennsylvania now, and I'm like, I need more Italians up here, man. I'm from New York, New Jersey area, so I love seeing guys in your area, and it's just a vibe when you're working with guys like that, right? Like we're loud, we're obnoxious, but we're a lot of fun.
I hit no one again, baby. It means I'm outside, kid. I just rolled up. Let's go.
You can find me on Substack at Supernova38 with 2 R's. Defense special teams has been a big specialty of mine, so you can check my stuff out there. I think there's a lot of edges where the floor and fantasy knowledge is getting raised. A lot of leagues are still playing with defenses, so I help find edges for that. I think that's one of the areas that's still not touched on enough in fantasy analysis, and I've been extremely successful there. So you can find that information and a ton more over at my Substack. And yeah, hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Now I'm doing the hand rubbing thing because as a bettor, I'm always talking about we're looking for soft markets, right? Beating the NFL lines is virtually impossible. However, having edges in softer prop markets is not. I wonder if we can hook up in season, Pete, for defensive props. Yeah. I've got a cool data suite also for that. And maybe we can hook up. We're going to see, there's tackle props, tackle and assist stuff. I'm going to check out your defensive work, and maybe we could hook up and put that to good use and fatten the pockets a little bit.
Yeah, even DFS. Even DFS. A lot of people have told me that they use my stuff for their DFS stuff because you're always trying to build the cheapest lineups, and defense is always what gets looked at last. And I've always helped people, find a lot of edges with cheap defenses.
Dude, I love this. So we already have our episode kind of set up, right? The overvalued and undervalued defenses from a real life standpoint, right? People want to know who's better or worse than you think. Maybe a couple tackle props and finish with a little fantasy DST. Bro, you're right. Your high price and the low price one. I think we just got ourselves a week, even if it's a little quick one and you hop in at the end of something, dude, that'd be great. We're going to hook up for that. And I
Yep.
appreciate you. So from Big Johnny Stud and Pete Nova, that was pretty awesome. That was Cork Stats, Fantasy Football. Press like and subscribe. That shit all matters more than it should. It just is what it is. Hit me up on Twitter at John Legaze with any questions and stuff. And if not, everybody, we'll check you soon. I'll probably be live streaming a draft either later today or tomorrow. Again, everyone, take it easy.